Good, thank you. Also, for people here, good morning. I'm Gary Gonter, the president of ESCOM. I'd like to welcome you to our Spotlight Presents program on the American Association of University Women. We've all heard a lot about the groups, and here we learn some details and facts and organization. Any questions? We'll have Q&A afterwards. It'll start out with Kathy Harper as we'll cover AAUW in general, and then Leslie Zimring will cover the Marin branch, so all the local activities. Questions at the end, of course. Please ask them in chat and we'll read them to the presenters. Okay, I think we're off and running. As an organization associated with College of Marin, ESCOM definitely supports AAUW and their work across the state, Marin County, and the nation. Their work is especially important now in our fragmented world. Now, Kathy Harper has been a member of AAUW since 2005. She's held numerous leadership positions at both the local, state, and national level of the organization, including president of 2 branches, board director of AAUW California, public policy chair of AAUW California, and member of the AAUW National Public Policy Committee. Now, Kathy was, in her past lives, was prosecutor in Orange County for 25 years and served as the CEO for a nonprofit domestic violence shelter program in Big Bear for 10 years. Now, our local representative is Leslie Zimring. She is the current president of Marin branch of the AAUW. She'll bring us up to date on current local information for our branch. So let's welcome Kathy Harper to start us off.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you for the nice introduction. And on behalf of AAUW, I want to say welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for coming out and for giving us this opportunity. I'm always excited to have a chance to talk about my wonderful organization. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. I can't get to my, there we go.
There you go, yes.
Couldn't get my start button was hiding. All right, so I'm gonna just, oh, hang on just a second, sorry. There we go, that's me. Oh, I've got my my contact information on here. If you have, if you think of any questions after we conclude it that you didn't think about during the Q&A or want any more information about AAUW, feel free to go ahead and contact me at my email address here. So here's what we're going to cover this morning. I'm going to give you a brief overview and introduction to AAUW National, our umbrella organization, and then some specific information about AAUW California. And then I'm going to spend most of my morning at Nancy's request talking about our public policy priorities. And so I'll talk about what the basis for those public policy priorities are, and then how we determine them within our organization. And then we'll take a detailed look at the actual current priorities and how we realize those through our programs and projects. And then Leslie will, when I conclude, Leslie will have a chance to talk to you about how those, how they're taking those programs and projects at the local level. All right, so just a quick overview of AAUW National. We were founded in 1881. We started out with our primary focus being education. So we're a small group of women who were just very, very few of the women at the time who had been actually admitted into universities. There were only about three to six women back in the Eastern area. And they got together and decided that they wanted to work on trying to advance higher education for women. So that was their full focus. Eventually, the organization incorporated and expanded that mission to go beyond just education. So that what became and is today, our mission is to advance equity for women and girls through advocacy, education, and research. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan, member-driven organization. We have a very small staff at our headquarters in Washington, D.C. We are governed by a board of directors, of course. And but other than that, small staff there, all of our membership is strictly volunteer and member-driven. We have affiliate organizations in all 50 states, and combined, we have over 170,000 members throughout the United States. So AAUW California is one of those state affiliates. We organized in 1921. We started out with just 13 state branches. We currently have 116 branches throughout the state. We're the largest contingent, as you can imagine, of the whole overall AAUW population with 9,500 members. Our mission is a little bit more specific. Of course, we're governed by the overall general AAUW mission, but our specific mission as AAUW California is to facilitate our branches in meeting that mission and vision of AAUW. We are also governed by a board of directors, and each of our directors is assigned a specific area that they're responsible for. And you can see them on here, but the important one is the very last one noted, and that's public policy. And that's, I've been the public policy chair of AAUW California for the last 5 years. 6 years, I just termed out this year, but I'm still on the committee. So the Public Policy Committee is where the bulk of the work on our public policy priorities is accomplished. So let's just look at a second for what the basis of our public policy priorities are, and they're twofold. The first one, of course, is our mission statement. I'll repeat that. It's to advance equity for women and girls through advocacy, education, and research. But it really goes far, far beyond that. At AAUW, we recognize the incredible importance of intersectionality. We recognize that we will never have true equity for women until we have equity for all members of society. We don't operate in a vacuum or live in a vacuum. And so we have expanded far beyond advocating equities just for women. So the second area that we look to for our public policy priorities is AAUW National's policy directives. And in a nutshell, those are fourfold. They consist of opposition to all forms of discrimination and support for constitutional protection for the civil rights of all persons. A commitment to increasing the number of women and the diversity of backgrounds they represent, including race, ethnicity, age, income, gender, and sexual identity in policy and other decision-making positions. And a commitment to being nonpartisan and fact-based and to acting with integrity at all times. And finally, a determination that our work be inclusive and intersectional, collaborating with diverse allies and coalitions to achieve equity for all. So I'm going to get out of this screen for just a second, and I'm going to share a different screen with you for a minute. And this is the representation of AAUW California's public policy priorities. You don't have to read them all here. I'm going to go over them in detail on other slides in just a minute. But I wanted to show you this visual because this represents this concept of intersectionality, our recognition that all of our priorities intersect in ways that address those public policy directives. our commitment to inclusion and diversity. All right, go back to the slides. Oops. All right, so how do we arrive at our public policy priorities? We take a look at these every 2 years. So we want to stay, it's important that we stay current, that we stay relevant as our times change, circumstances change. Some issues no longer need to be in the spotlight. Other newer issues have come to the forefront, and we need to make sure that we're addressing those and incorporating them. So we revise them every 2 years with input from our whole membership. Again, remember, everything we do is membership driven. We send out a survey to all of our members requesting comments on our existing priorities. So we send out a list of our existing priorities, and then we ask our members 3 questions. For each one of these, are you happy with the way it is? Should it stay as it is? Should it be modified? And is there something missing that you would like to add? Or are there any existing ones that you think we shouldn't have in there and should be deleted? So the results of that survey come back to our public policy committee members. We review all of those suggestions and we apply the following criteria. If the request is to add a new priority, we look at it through this lens. Is it within our mission? Does it address a new issue germane to current circumstances? An example of that would be over the last couple of years, gun violence prevention has become a very, very important and critical issue to our nation, but also to our members. They feel very strongly about it and wanted to have something added about that we had not had in our prior public policy priorities. So we gave that really serious consideration and ended up adding a priority for that, and several others. We added about 4 new ones this year. And then would adding this meet the criteria set forth in the purpose, which I went over a few slides ago. If the request is to delete, of course, we're interested in knowing what is the reason for the request. Would deleting it diminish our ability to meet the purpose? So, for example, one of our strongest priorities in the social justice arena is reproductive freedom. Not all of our members agree with that. So every 2 years when we put out the survey, we have a fair number of our members who want that deleted because they don't support reproductive freedom. But we would never agree to deleting that because that's a very important aspect of the purpose of having public policy priorities. And then if the request is to modify, we kind of go through the same questions. Would the modifications alter the basic importance of the priority, and do the suggested modifications fit the criteria and the purpose? So obviously we don't follow every single suggestion that comes from our membership. This is a long 2-day process that our committee members go through and considering each of these suggestions. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is, so how do we realize our objectives? And I'm going to go through those quickly on and talk about both at the national level as well as through AAUW California at the state level. So again, going back to our mission statement to advance equity through advocacy, research, and education. In the advocacy arena, we do have a lot of stuff going on. Our members meet with congressional leaders. They send letters to congressional leaders, to the president, to the White House. We have a group called our Lobby Corps. This is a group of volunteers who live in and around the Washington, D.C. area. And when we have specific bills that we're interested in advancing or opposing, we send in our Lobby Corps, and they set up meetings with our congressmen and women and our senators. And they go in and talk about our bills. And then we have a program called 2-Minute Activist. And this is an alert that comes out from national to all of our membership throughout the whole United States and says, here, there's an important vote coming up on this particular bill. And we need our membership to weigh in on it. And they send us a kind of a prescribed script. And if you're registered for 2-minute activists, all you have to do is hit a button. It literally takes less than 2 minutes to send the message on to Congress, or sometimes to the president's office. So those are our advocacy efforts at the national level. And then we have our programs that meet our objectives. Some of these are, we have a conference called NICWSL, is how you pronounce that. The abbreviation is NICWSL. Stands for National Conference for College Women and Student Leaders. This is a program that's put on every year in Maryland, at the University of Maryland. And all of our branches are invited to sponsor a young woman who they feel would be a really good fit for this program. And it's a 4-day conference. And basically what they do is teach young women leadership skills. And they have an opportunity to meet with other young women from all across the United States and pursuing all different kinds of fields, and learn from each other and learn from successful women who come and do presentations and speak and do workshops and so forth. And all of these programs are supported by our funds, which come from donations. We have members pay dues. We pay national dues, state dues, and dues to our local branch. Our national dues go to support all of these programs that I'm going to be talking about here. So the students who go to NICWSL it's completely free of cost to them. They're sponsored by a local branch who pays part of their fees, and the national has a fund that picks up part of those fees as well. They have a scholarship fund that the students apply for. Then we have 2 programs called Start Smart and Work Smart. And these are basically financial education. Well, they're 2 things. They're financial education courses, but they're also teaching young women and men. We have a lot of male students, and they're welcome to join as well. Start Smart takes place primarily on our college campuses. And this is a program to teach college students about the realities of the workplace. We talk about the gender pay gap, and we talk about equity laws and what their responsibilities, but what their rights are in the workplace. We teach them how to negotiate, how to develop negotiating skills so they can go in and negotiate on their own behalf for better terms of their employment. Work Smart is a similar program, but it's more geared toward women who have already been in the workforce and then have been out for a while. Maybe they have started a family and decided to stay at home and work. For whatever reason, they've been out of the workforce for a while. And so Work Smart is geared toward bringing them back in, helping them transition back into the workplace, bringing them current on what's been going on, what the current laws are, et cetera. So these are 2 great programs that help women achieve our goal of greater equity in the workplace. And then we have a 3rd program, which is we provide fellowships and grants to women who are pursuing higher education. So you have to be working on at least your master's or your PhD to qualify for this program. And our fellowships and grantees come from all across the world, not just the United States or particular states, but we have young women who have applied and won fellowship grants from across the country. And once those grants are given, then our grantees, part of their grant requirement is that they agree to be available to speak. So our branches, this is an annual branch project. They will have one of our fellowship grantees come and do a presentation at their branch meeting to talk about whatever their PhD thesis was and what the work is that they're doing. And this is a great, wonderful program that our branches really, really enjoy. And then finally in the research aspect of our mission, we do a lot of independent research on several topics. I've just highlighted 2 here. And then we publish our results. And these results have been relied on. They've been, they're published and available as publications to anyone wanting to do research on these topics. They've been used, and information from our research products have been used by members of Congress in advocating for certain bills. So the two that I've highlighted here is Deeper in Debt. One is called Deeper in Debt. It's a treatise on women and student loans. And the other one is The Simple Truth About the Gender Pay Gap. And this is about the lack of equal pay in among our female workforce. So those are some of the things we're doing on the national level. At the state level, we don't do any independent research per se at the same level that we do at national. We might do research for an independent project that we're working on here, like I'll talk about my school board project in just a second, but mostly we focus on advocacy and programs. So advocacy is what we do in our public policy committee. We have a paid legislative advocate. She's a full-time lobbyist. That's her job is full-time. She works part-time for us. And every year, our public policy committee goes through all the bills that have been introduced for that year. And our advocate sits down with our public policy chairs, and they select about 50 of those bills that they think are particularly germane to our mission. And then our committee whittles those down to about 30 that we're going to work on for each legislative session. And then we pick three of those bills as our top priority bills. And then we have lobby days, which all of our members are invited to participate in. We have about 125 members, kind of consistently about that number, who participate each year. This year, lobby days will be in March 19th and 20th, I think. We're doing over 2 days. And we meet with our legislators in person in Sacramento or via Zoom calls, so that all of our members throughout the state can participate. And then we have 4 primary programs that I'm highlighting here. You'll see a theme. We have Tech Trek, Speech Trek, and Gov Trek. Tech Trek is a program that is designed to advance or to encourage young women to become to pursue careers in the STEM fields: science, math, technology, and engineering. That's the E. So we have this is really fueled by our branches, and I'm sure Leslie's going to talk a lot more about her branches doing as far as Tech Trek is concerned. But just generally, what it is the branches raise money, and then they provide scholarships to the girls that cost about $1,000 per girl. And branches can send as many girls as they can raise money to support. And we partner with 10 different University of California campuses throughout the state. And we send these girls to a camp on one of the campuses for a week in the summer. It's the summer between their 7th grade and 8th grade years. And we have presenters who are women who are, have made achievements or currently working in the field of in any of the STEM fields. And they come and do hands-on workshops and laboratories and field trips for the girls. And it's just a tremendous experience and opportunity for these young girls. We have another program called Speech Trek. And again, this is done at the branch level. They recruit students from high school. And these can be boys or girls from, they could be freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors. I think it might just be juniors and seniors now they think of it. And we give them a topic, and the topic comes right out of our public policy priorities. It's very current every year. And the students have to put together a 5-minute speech on that topic. And then we pick from across the whole state, we pick the top 3 finalists, and then we present them at our annual convention. And we have judges, and then they pick the winner of the Speech Trek. And this is designed to help students develop their public speaking skills, their confidence, and their research skills, because they have to do independent research on our topic for their speech. GovTrek is a program that I'm very proud of. I actually started this program in my branch back before I moved up to the Central Coast. I was living in San Diego, and I was the president and public policy chair of my branch there. And I started this program in 2017. And the purpose behind this program is to encourage young women to want to pursue careers in government or some kind of public service arena. And so we have this, it's a 3-month program, and the girls meet in teams. They come again from all across the state, and we put them into teams, and we have members from our organization, from AAUW California, who volunteer to kind of be team moms, team leaders. And we have speakers. We had last year, we had Nancy Pelosi gave a speech to the girls. And so we have inspirational speakers, women who are in politics, talk to the girls about the positive aspects of a life in politics or a career in politics. And then the girls have to develop a campaign team, and they put together an entire campaign operation. And then they present that at the end of the 3-month program. And again, we have judges who judge which team has put together the best campaign team. So that's a really fun project. And then the final one is another one I get to brag about a little bit. It's called the School Board Project, and I'm the chair of the subcommittee that's running this project. And this is designed to counter what's happening across the nation, and even right here in good old blue California, where we're seeing these efforts by groups like, there's a group called Moms for Liberty. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're not the only ones, but they're the most predominant. And they're going to school board meetings and disrupting them and making a lot of noise about book banning, school censorship, and curriculum censorship, and basically making efforts to curtail rights of LGBTQ plus students. And they're actively seeking and supporting school board candidates to be on school boards to enforce these values that they're putting forth. And so the purpose of our school board project is to help to get our members at their local district level to identify and recruit and endorse candidates who are more progressive and who oppose all of these tactics. So we encourage our members to attend school board meetings, to speak up about the issues and values that we care about, and to help us find good candidates for school boards in their districts. Okay, so now I'm just going to wrap up by talking for about 5 or 10 minutes about our actual priorities. I just want to reiterate, I put this up here, so I showed you our public policy priority visual a few minutes ago, but these, just as a recap, these are what we call our pillars, our 4 pillars. So that they consist of economic security for all women, equal access to quality education for all students, social and racial justice for all members of society. And then this is one we just added this year, that's increased representation of women in leadership roles. So I'm going to break these down. As you might recall from the circles, they all had whole bunch of little short paragraphs with them. And that's what we have over here on the left, what we call our bullet point priorities under each of these headings. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we advocate and then what we actually do to make that happen. So the first one is under economic security for all women is equity in the workplace. What we do is we support legislation that increases equity for women and girls. And we do the work through our legislative advocate and through lobby days. And I'll just give you a couple of examples of some of the things that we've done in the past. We were very, very involved in getting the National Fair Pay Act passed. I don't know if you're familiar with this name, but Lilly Ledbetter. This was known as the Lilly Ledbetter Act. And we gave financial support to Lilly Ledbetter in pursuing her claims. This was the case of the woman who had been working for a tire company for many, many years. I think it was Goodyear. And it was during that time when you were forbidden from talking about your salary. And so she had no idea during the entire time that she was working that she was being paid less than her male counterparts who were doing the exact same work. She didn't find this out until she was ready to retire. And so she brought a lawsuit when she found out that she had been paying less. And this resulted in the National Fair Pay Act. And what that basically says is that businesses cannot prevent employees from talking to each other about their salary. We didn't get everything we wanted out of the bill, but that was the main thing that Lilly Ledbetter wanted. And we were, again, very instrumental. Our CEO was there at the signing of the National Fair Pay Act. Here in California, a couple of bills in 2018, we supported and worked very hard on behalf of the Equal Pay Act. And this came out of, again, a single case of a woman named Eileen Rizzo. And Miss Rizzo was working as a math professor at Fresno State. And she had come from Arizona, transferred from Arizona. And she was hired, and she eventually learned that she, again, was being paid less than her male counterparts who had less experience than she did. But she was told that it was based on the fact that her pay when she worked in Arizona was less than what the men were being paid at Fresno, and that they used her prior salary history as a basis for establishing her current pay. And so the Equal Pay Act of 2018 was designed to counteract that, prevent that from happening again. So now, as a result of this law, employers cannot ask about salary history, and they can't use that as a basis for establishing current pay. And this is important to women because of the gender pay gap. Women have historically been paid less, so they're always going to come in, almost always, at a lower salary than their male counterparts. So this was an important one, and AAUW co-sponsored that bill, and were very instrumental in bringing about its passage. And then we had in 2022, we had the Pay Transparency Act, and that requires that employers must provide pay data broken down by demographics. And this is important for research policies and for future legislative policies, so we can look back on the data that gets collected and find out what's really happening in our state and which corporations are abiding by pay requirements. And we were a co-sponsor of that bill as well. Okay, the next one is enforcement of workplace anti-discrimination statutes. So we support legislation that eliminates discrimination. We have at the national level, we have what's called our Legal Advocacy Fund. And we use the money that's collected through donations to that fund to support plaintiffs who are alleging discrimination in the workplace. The bulk of the complaints come from at the university level. It's usually professors who are being paid, female professors who are being paid less, or female coaches who are being paid less, or whose teams are not given the same resources and opportunities as the male coaches and male teams. And so we supply, we help them with funding to pay their legal bills on that kind of discrimination legislation. Excuse me. The next two, I'm not going to say too much about. We haven't had a lot of activity in these areas, but we do support security and retirement and access to job training for career development. The last one is work-life balance, including access to quality, affordable childcare and paid sick and caregiving leave. And this was one of our top priorities from 2 years ago in 2020. We co-sponsored a bill called AB 92. And this was a bill to help give relief to low-income families who are on subsidized childcare, and a significant portion of their income was having to go to pay their portion of the childcare costs. And our bill was to give them a hiatus for a year initially, and then we expanded it to 2 years to where they did not have to pay anything. And then that would eventually be replaced by a sliding scale. And so that became a 2-year bill. And we were successful in getting a significant amount of relief for low-income families. So those are our economic security priorities. Our second pillar is equal access to quality public education for all students. What we advocate is for vigorous enforcement of Title IX. Title IX is a national legislation that requires equal treatment of all students, anyone on a campus, teachers, faculty, students. It's basically an anti-discrimination statute for any institution that receives public funds, basically. And so what we do here is support legislation that strengthens the enforcement of Title IX. Every couple of years, the Congress looks at Title IX and looks to amendments, or to sometimes it has to be reauthorized. And so whenever that happens, we always weigh in. Our membership sends letters to the Department of Education about proposed changes. Again, we provide support to plaintiffs alleging violations of Title IX. Our second bullet point is adequate and equitable funding at all educational levels, including preschool and post-secondary. In this arena, we've been really focused at the national level on student debt relief. That our research tells us that women suffer to a much greater degree than men from the student debt crunch. It's harder for them to pay back their loans. So we support student debt relief legislation, and we've done published our research on this. The third is to remove removal of barriers for girls to access instruction in the STEM fields. We address this through our tech program and through legislation. This is one we just added this year at the request of our membership. We had a lot of our members weigh in about the dilemma of the lack of civics instruction in California high schools. This is brand new one this year, so we really haven't done too much. We haven't seen any legislation coming out on this, but if there is, we will definitely be in there supporting it. a couple more under education, excuse me. So this is another one that we just added this year. Again, as a result of what I was talking about before, what's going on with our schools right now. Pardon me. So we added access to diverse staff and curriculum that represents historically accurate information. So we oppose legislation policies that support book banning and/or curriculum censorship. We developed our school board project. We were also a co-sponsor of AB 1073, which was passed by the legislature, signed by the governor, and just took effect on January 1st. And this forbids all California schools from banning books or censoring curriculum based on diverse subject matter. We were a co-sponsor of that bill and really proud of it and happy to see it pass. The next one is funding adequate. We support funding adequate to support a strong infrastructure and equitable access to resources, including technology. Another new one we just added this year. We had a lot of interest in the education field this year. And so we're looking for bills that address making sure that all students have all the resources that they need, regardless of what income level or what district they come from. And then finally, we support opposition to the use of public funds for non-public and charter schools that do not meet public school civil rights and accountability standards. And we don't oppose all charter schools, but we focus on those. We want to make sure that any charter schools legislation addresses the requirement that they meet all public school civil rights standards. All right, and then finally, well, not finally, because we have our brand new one that we added, but I don't have too much to say about that, but social and racial justice for all members of society is something that we're very, very concerned with and very active in. Our first one is self-determination and reproductive health. As I mentioned before, this is a little bit controversial. Not all of our members are pro-choice, and we try to respect that, but it is something that we care very much about. We support pro-choice legislation and policies. We are a member of the State Future of Abortion Council, which was developed by a lot of various member organizations who support reproductive freedom. And out of that council came a lot of suggestion for different legislative ideas. And one of them was Proposition 1, which we supported and did a very active campaign throughout the state in helping to get that passed. And that was to add a constitutional amendment to the California Constitution, enshrining the rights of abortion for all women in California. Some of the other legislation that came out of that we supported was another bill called AB 1666. And this was a bill that prohibits states that outlaw abortion if women from their states come to California to get an abortion. AB 1666 says that neither the woman who seeks an abortion in California or anyone in the state of California who assists her can be prosecuted by the state that she came from. So those are two really important pieces of legislation that we helped get passed. We support equal access to quality, affordable healthcare, housing, and a healthy environment. We support freedom from violence in all its forms and against historically marginalized groups, and support for policies that reduce or prevent gun violence. We support a lot of domestic violence related bills under this bullet point here. We support a guarantee of civil and constitutional rights for all, including all forms of gender identity and expression and all family structures. This means we support or oppose, as may be the case may be, LGBTQ plus related legislation. We oppose education policies that are harmful to LGBTQ plus students. We support the protection and expansion of voting rights. As I mentioned before, we're very actively engaged in get out the vote activities. We do this on a branch level. Almost all of our branches are involved, and they do go on college campuses or other local organizations, work with the League of Women Voters, do candidate forums, debate forums, etc. And then finally, we support United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which address human rights and women's and girls' concerns. There are 17 goals. I'm not going to take the time to go through all of them. I've given you a link here. If you're interested in those, you can look them up yourselves. But they address a lot of the same things that we care about, our values. And then finally, I'll wrap this up with our brand new pillar that we added this year, and that is we support increased representation of women in leadership roles. The first one is proportional appointment to publicly held corporate boards. About 3 years ago, there was a bill to require all corporate boards that were licensed through the state of California to have a proportional number of women on their boards. And we were a co-sponsor of that bill, and that passed. Access to leadership skills training. This is represented by our Nick Whistle program that I talked about earlier. And then access to programs that promote participation in public service careers. And we realize this through our GovTrek program. So that is wraps up my presentation. You now know everything there is to know about AAUW. And I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have after Leslie completes her representation. She's going to talk to you about what they're doing on the local level in your area. And then we'll have some Q&A on both of our presentations. So thank you very much for giving me your time and the opportunity to talk to you. Go, Leslie.
Good morning, all. So thank you so much for being here this morning to talk with us about AAUW. So I'm going to present just a little bit about how AAUW Marin coordinates and connects with AAUW California and with our national group. So I'm going to just, if I'm successful here, I'm going to bring up my deck here. Let's see. How am I doing? Do you see my slide?
No,
Nope. Okay, let me do it this way. Back here. All right. Bring up my horse. Doesn't want to come up now. Hang on just a
did
second.
are you hitting share screen, Leslie?
I
The little
was.
green button at the
Hang
bottom.
on. Yeah, I can either get one or the other for some reason. Hang on just a second. Let me get this up. Share screen. All right. It was doing it earlier and now it's not wanting to come up. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's frustrating. Hang on one second. Going to bring you out of my vision here so I can find it. Okay, well, we'll start with me just talking a little bit about AAUW Marin. The state started in 1921 and we came into being in 1932. And in 1932, there was only one woman in the US Senate, and that was Hattie Caraway from Arkansas. Currently, we have 25 women in the Senate, and 2 of them were elected in 1992. So it took it took another 60 years before we had 2 women in the Senate from California. All right, now we're coming up here. Let's see if I can get this to, there we go. All right. All right, come on. I've got it here. Oh, there we go. Okay, now let's see if I can present. Okay, back to Zoom. Here we go. Okay, share screen. There we go. Patience is a virtue, right? I can just be patient. That's my goal here. There we go. Okay. All right. So here is the website for AAUW Marin. So please feel free to go and find more information. And below I have my email address if you'd like to get in touch with me. So once again, Marin AAUW works very closely with the state. We have women and no men right now. We have women who are business and philanthropic leaders, volunteers, entrepreneurs, and public officials. We have 2 sections to our branch. One is a 501c3, which is our scholarship board, and then we have our Marin branch, which is 501c4. So our scholarship board works in the fall, works all year long to supply local college scholarships to both College of Marin and to Dominican. They support our Tech Trek young women who are our 7th graders. And we have 8 girls who we've been allowed, we only are allowed a certain number to go to the Tech Trek every year because of there are so many girls who want to go. So we've been given 8. It's about a $1,300 investment for each one of those girls. We send at least 1 or 2 young women to the National Conference of College Women Student Leaders, as Kathy was talking about. We have branch programs that are focused on the mission of AAUW. We have interest groups, which are great fun. They're book clubs and they are film groups and they go to art galleries and they get together to play mahjong. So there are lots of different activities that we have. And then the newest project that we're working on, and we're working on this with our local YWCA as well as our Marin Women's Commission. And this is a new award that we're going to be awarding in the next year in 2025. And this is to encourage younger women to become involved with their community, to show what they can do. We find that because our branch is by and large more mature women, that we are looking to encourage young leaders and by awarding them an award. And we're calling it the Rising Vanguard Award. So look for more news about that. We're going to be announcing that on February 8th. So these are basically what our branch does. Certainly we have lots of activities that are ongoing. Our branch meeting just recently was based on a group of women called registerher.org. Please look that up. It's a wonderful organization of kind of boots on the ground young women who are encouraging other younger and older women to become registered and able to vote. So it's a very exciting group that we just were able to have visit us via Zoom. Our next meeting is a tri-branch meeting where we're going to be listening to a philanthropic group in Marin who works with some of our more communities that are having more challenges. So they will be talking about the work that they do. Once again, our branch programs, in the fall, we had an author who talked about her experience as a woman of color working with getting her book published, working with publishers and how that worked out. We had our tech track and scholarship recipients come to a branch meeting, and we're having this new meeting on equitable communities. So we work very hard to have branch meetings that appeal to all of our members, but focus on the mission of AAUW to provide equity for women. Our connections to the state are many. We are very pleased that several of our members are representatives of the different groups that the state has. So we have Lobby Day, and our public policy is led by a woman by the name of Nancy Majors with assistance from Deborah Lerner. So Nancy sits on our state board for public policy. She has responsibility for everything from Marin all the way up the coast to Eureka. So we are very grateful to Nancy for her work and for Deborah's able assistance. GovTrack, we are also involved with GovTrack. Right now we have 3 young women who have joined the program, and we're looking forward to their campaigns. Tech Truck, once again, we have 8 young women who are involved with the Tech Truck program, and they will be chosen. Well, we have slots for 8 women, so they will be chosen this spring to participate this summer at Sonoma State. And Tech Truck, one of our members is also on the state committee, and that's Angela Knuckles. So that's also a great experience for her and for our girls. I meant to mention that in GovTrack, Kathy has probably worked with Dottie Burke, who is another one of our branch members, and Dottie has helped with the Saturday morning trainings for these young women. One of our members is also on the National AAUW board, that's Sherry Sorokin, and she is a very valued member of our group and gives us access to national board information that we can get online or we can call Sherry. It's wonderful to have so many members involved at the state and national level. And our AAUW fund, which we're working on right now, as you can see, I've put up a visual for you of what the AAUW fund supports. And that's we have a new committee that is ongoing right now. And so our spring efforts are going to be to support the AAUW fund. And we have lots of branch activities that will be going on about that. So that's basically where we are as a group. Let me just stop sharing here. Let's see if I can. Did I stop sharing?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right.
Leslie, we have a question in the chat. What is expected of members in terms of involvement and participation?
Oh, that's a great question. So nothing, I want to say that nothing is required. You know, people have very, very busy lives, and we understand that. But what I would say is that we encourage people to become involved. It, it really enriches your life to know all these smart, interesting people that are involved in AAUW. It's enriching, it is exciting. You can be a little bit involved. You can go to lobby day. You can come to a branch meeting. You can become involved in making we have a big event in the fall where we earn money to send young women to Tech Trek and to Washington for the Nick Whistle Conference. These are all efforts that are really well supported in Marin, and they are just, you can take a little bit of time, or you can donate to these efforts, or you can attend a branch meeting, or you can become part of an interest group. It's really up to you. It's enriching, I will say that, to know some really interesting, smart women.
Okay. We have another question that says, what resources and support do you offer older women in the workplace or women wanting to return to the workplace? Probably more for Kathy. Kathy, you're muted.
Excuse me. As I mentioned before, we have our Work Smart program, and this is available to women throughout the state, but it's really kind of dependent upon branches. Again, like most of our programs are, different branches will run a Work Smart workshop in their area. I really can't say what's going on in your area on Work Smart, but you know, it might be something that if someone's interested, they could contact the Marin branch and get more information about it, how to get involved in taking that workshop.
Right. We don't have anything scheduled right now, but certainly if there's a call for it, we would be really open to that.
Oh, thank you. We have a question here about women's college basketball. Are you happy with their progress? How do you focus on your college and your high school sports?
Let me just answer that. I'm from Indiana.
Oh,
so
good.
College basketball is very big. And certainly I'm always interested in that, but I can't say that I have any influence on it at all.
I'm not really a sports follower, but I'm interested in it from the standpoint of from an equity standpoint. So
Yes.
I'm very interested in the progress that women's teams are making across the board, not just in basketball, but across the board. And of course, we're seeing a lot of progress. We're still way behind, but we are finally seeing women standing up for their rights, and we are seeing progress. So I don't have an opinion if I'm happy or unhappy. I will never be happy until we reach full equity, and we're not there. So
Exactly. Another question that I have personally is, you mentioned a lot of studies that AAUW has put out, a lot of documentation and reports. How would we access those reports? Are they at a particular location?
they are. They're in. You can get them on. I put in the chat the AAUW national website,
Good.
and if you just go on there, and the quickest way is just to click on their public policy button, and that'll take you to all, because all of these publications are under the public policy.
Yes.
Or you can type in their search engine, just search a particular area that you're interested in. And if there's research on that topic, it will come up.
Great. Hey, thank you, Kathy. Any other questions?
Yeah, Nancy had asked examples of charter schools that don't meet the civil rights standards. Are there some that we have locally here that would fall under that category?
I haven't done any specific research on schools. I look at it mostly from the standpoint if there's legislation affecting, like, for instance, the establishment of a new charter school, we would look at that at that time when it came up. We would look at the specifics of what the requirements were of that charter school and determine at that point whether or not it meets our standards for civil rights. But I don't have a list of any in the state that do or don't specifically know.
Okay. Thank you. What about the child tax credits that have come up multiple times and not been, supported at the national level? What do you think about those?
At the national level, we have not taken a position on the child tax credit. We don't take a position on every single issue that comes up, even if it's in our bailiwick. As I said, we have a very small paid staff at headquarters, and they're very selective about the legislation that we can actually, what can we accomplish? That's what they look at. We only take on, the national level, we only take on about maybe five or six major issues each congressional session. So we haven't really had anything that has come out of national that has addressed that. I can just tell you in a general sense that we support any legislation that eases the burden on all families, on all working families, but particularly on low income families. And in theory, that is something that we support, but there isn't any specific legislation that we've weighed in on one way or the other.
Okay, good. Thank you, Kathy and Leslie. I think our time is up. There are no more questions. I want to thank you both for participating, presenting, and making it, very interesting on this organization that is old and wise and active still. Thank you so much. This has been recorded. We're going to put this up on our website for people to access. We also do broadcasts with a radio station. We take the soundtrack from the video, and this is broadcast over at our Point Reyes, West Marin radio station, KWMR. So it goes out to a broader audience than just our members, which is pretty broad, but this extends it even to the streaming on the internet. So we're off and running. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Our pleasure. This is great.
All right.
Bye.
Goodbye to all. This ends our production and our Spotlight Presents. Hope you are in good health, stay clear of COVID, and enjoy the weekend.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.